I'd like to take you on a journey with me. I travel through time. I see my people and watch as they suffer, are killed and brutally beaten simply because they look like me. Time passes quickly. I stop in front of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's 1968 in Washington, D.C. in a church in February. It's chilly and I'm surrounded by 5,000 souls. There's an energy about the place that's hopeful and uplifting. He is speaking vigorously when I hear a line that captures my attention. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. The cameras are flashing, the speakers boom his message out. He captures everyone's attention, and they cheer, cry, and hug one another. All of a sudden, I knew I had to talk to him. I needed to hold a conversation on such a powerful sentiment. I float through the crowd and drop right in front of him, shivering and awed. "Excuse me, a minute of your time." Dr. King seems shaken. I've just quite literally dropped in on him, and I just go for it. As you know, Dr. King, our world is seriously messed up. People die for no reason all the time. We live in constant fear, but your words give us hope. In 60 years, when you're gone, we hope your words live on. Doc, listen, I love the speech, and you're right. Disappointment is temporary. I believe that we must use disappointment to our advantage and abandon dissatisfaction. Give ourselves over to a future of building a better America, an America where my ancestors can be proud, a future where the ancestors can see that we are no longer simply tolerated, but respected and honored. True freedom of mind and heart, an America which the rest of the world sees as a beacon on a hill. Now when the world looks, they see 400 years of a promise never lived out. The pain, the suffering, the corruption, the evil of our original and still unresolved sin. We have the ability and the capacity to show good. We can be better. We can be a light to all those looking in. I've realized that not understanding each other is inevitable. We are but men. But together, that is what will be remembered by foe and friends alike as both a point of respect and a challenge to enemies' more base intentions. In my loftiest dreams, we wouldn't worry about sickness, death, or hatred. But these are things we must fight, not simply watch. We can compare the evil in our society and the pandemic that spreads chaos and forests of fear. The pandemic mutates, grows, and never stops replicating. It can bring death, disruption, and daily annoyances. Similarly, hatred has many different mutations, and racism is the most glaring. It's the spot in your clothes that won't come out no matter how hard you try. It's that bad taste in your mouth that's unidentifiable. And it shows when the police stop your car without reason, when the police kill a black man in the streets and pretend it was a mistake, when the courts say these incidents are unintentional. It shows as fake reparations that keep black people enslaved, when Antifa is called a terrorist organization, but the Klan is kept alive and well. It shows both in Democratic propaganda and Republican ideals. Forget Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on racism. Racism shows when I get disgusted looks from people when I sit down to eat in a restaurant and experience a sentiment that you well know, Dr. King. It shows when I present myself and show my intellect. White people near me say, "Wow, you're so well-spoken," or "How surprising, you're really educated," in an attempt to undermine me and my race. Why is it a surprise that a black man is educated? It has pervaded our communities as well. I've heard, "Oh, you sound like a little white kid," and that I am simply stuck up for using so-called big words. And yes, Doc, things do get better as time goes on, for sure. We even put a black man in the White House, but we can't come up with a sense of unity between races. We argued for a time that he wasn't actually black, and he might not have been an American. We fell down many years later and couldn't manage a peaceful transfer of power. But we have come a long way. I believe what we as a people have been searching for is achievable now. We must continue to work, though, since little good comes from laziness. I still hesitate when I leave my home, wondering if I'll be killed for the inescapable crime that I am a black man. I see the worst outcomes in my mind's eye when a police officer walks near me. But every day I'm grateful it's another day to fight, to make noise, to show off who I am to the world. And for having worked so hard to make that possible, Doc, thank you. I see Dr. King standing speechless. I ask for an autograph and run out to go back to my life. As he signs, Dr. King regains his famous mastery of language and reminds me that no matter what happens, I must have hope and always have a dream. It fills a new golden rule or a remix of the great man by himself. I catch one last glance and ponder. What is my dream? I dream of being respected and loved regardless of my race. And I realize my hope will always remain infinite, no matter what disappointment comes my way.
A 100 years ago, I would never be able to walk in this store. Whites and black, labels all around. It's different now, but when I walk past them at night, I still hear a sound. The music I play, they tell me to turn it down, but this is all we got. 100 years ago, I would've got whipped and beaten down. So convince me how we supposed to react. This supposed to be a good time, but I still hear cops kill the black. Innocent or not, death is not the answer. We have a dream, not a death wish, but they still want us to use our manners. No time for vengeance, that'll just set us back. 100 years ago and now, they'll still kill us if we attack.
Past comes the future in racial and wealth roles. Time and time again, underclass faces insane roles. The circle just continues as time goes on and on. A bondage of society, bound still so tightly held on. And the struggles is the same, different profile, different name, different people, same game, different oppression, same game, same pain. Society rolls its shackles as rich people cackle, breaking routine in a time that breaking trends and breaking bondage.
Land of free, but this is truly where I'm meant to be. Because last I checked, this was in my family's travel destination to be. Land of free, where you and I are free to be who we want to be, but not too free, because it's taking that check if you let yourself against the rest of us on the road of being the best. He'll be the 1/3 you never test. Land of free or but, am I free at last? Truly free at last, when once I go outside, it's a bloodbath, and the kids on the corner.
In our earlier ages, when someone asks us what we want to be once grown up, we might respond by saying, I'll be a firefighter, I'll be a teacher, I'll be a doctor, police officer, lawyer, etc. Being as though we were younger and less conscious of society around us, it was so easy to fixate our minds to make the decision of what we wanted to be once grown up. However, now that we are older and we begin to see that times are drastically different than what once seemed so simplistic before. In contrast from then, when we thought we had our lives figured out, and now, it is much easier to fall into pessimism. According to Oxford Languages, a pessimistic person is one who tends to see the worst aspect or believe that the worst will happen. But how is this happening to our community? The reason for our absence of hope can be largely at the fault of our current social conditions. We face many things like poverty, lack of mental health support, lack of proper and equitable education, system oppression, the fear of our country's terrible prison system, reproductive injustice, and many more. Despite us constantly confronting this ongoing list of horrible society issues, us not getting a proper and equitable education we have continuously fought for and well deserved is my community's biggest downfall. We need to be taught financial literacy. We need to be taught about reproductive justice and the devastating fact that Black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. We need to be taught our basic civil rights, the U.S. Constitution, and the U.S. laws and regulations to prevent us from going to jail, because despite the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery and involuntary servitude, the prison system is solely just a loophole of that and a way of funding to the pockets of people who obviously don't care for us, as the incarcerated population increased from 500% from the 1970s. And as concerning as it is, we are still facing the same issues from the 1970s. It is all just more modernized. Around that time, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was addressing some of the same issues in which I am today, and spoke about how clinging on to these oppressive prisons, segregation, and discrimination is something none of us should do. Instead, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. With this being said, don't expect disappointment, because expecting is simply just being pessimistic. Accept the disappointment and become optimistic for a change. According to Oxford Languages, optimistic means to be hopeful and confident about the future. For me, hope is to believe that I can achieve generational wealth despite the system not teaching it to me. We will transform these liabilities into assets and find the means to teach ourselves. Hope is to believe that I can go into any career field and successfully flourish in it. We will achieve all of our career goals and have more Black representation in each of these fields. Hope is to believe that I can make a difference in my community. We will find some motivation, if not from each other, then we will find it deep-rooted in ourselves along with our purpose, Nia. In all, accept your finite disappointment, but never lose your infinite hope. So, to everyone, if you once again get encountered with the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Make sure your response is filled with hope, because hope is all we have. Thank you.